Welcome to the Grit and Grow podcast, where we talk to guests who are pursuing excellence in both sport and life, who encourage and motivate us to become better mentors, coaches, parents, and athletes. My name is Shane Sowden, head men's basketball coach at Briarcrest College, and also your co-host.
And my name is Justin Simpkins, co-host and director of Prairie Hockey Academy. Welcome back to the Grit and Growth podcast. On today's episode, we have Dustin Friesen with us. Now, Dustin is a personal friend of mine and was actually a coach at Prairie Hockey Academy, where he got his head coaching experience started. In the last 2 seasons, though, he's won a WHL championship with the Moose Jaw Warriors as an assistant coach, and then moved to Moncton to win a Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League championship with the Moncton Wildcats. That puts him, if you're paying attention, to back-to-back Memorial Cup appearances, and he's just been named the head coach of the Calgary Hitmen. Today's episode was awesome. Just a deep dive into Dustin Friesen as a coach and what drives him. Why does he coach? What does it feel like to be coached by him? There was a lot I took away. It's going to be a really great episode for parents, for young coaches, and even for athletes to learn about consistency. And it's hard, but it's your path forward. Shane, what'd you take away?
Well, as a fellow coach, and again, I appreciate Dustin and I've got to know him a little bit over the last few years. But what I found was, for me, we get to talk to some great people on this podcast, and it's fantastic. I found myself taking more notes that are applicable to myself as a coach that I want to start putting into practice with my players and team starting next week. And gave me a lot of things to think about, from raising the floor to loving the process to being consistent, your daily habits, and what drives. It was really exciting to see what motivates and drives Dustin every morning to get up and build a culture and to build a program and to build into the lives of young men through the game of hockey.
You're going to like today's episode. Dustin's humble. He's honest. You could call him blue collar. He's from a farm in Waldheim, Saskatchewan. At the end of the day, Dustin's a professional. Enjoy today's episode. Dustin, welcome to the Grit and Growth podcast. I know you're not a stranger here, but we're really excited to have you back.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on here.
I'm excited. I mean, Dustin, you're a friend of mine and happened to have been a coworker as well, which is a great period of time in my life. 2 years ago, on October 3rd, 2023, I was just looking it up. You were actually on the podcast in our first ever season in episode 11. And that was a really cool podcast. We talked a lot about kind of your history as a player. We called it the captain's class, some of your experiences, and then into your time coaching at Prairie Hockey Academy and just some of the stuff that you were doing there. And that was a great podcast. But today's episode, we actually want to talk a lot more about Dustin, the coach, and where you're at today. 2 hockey seasons have gone by since then. You've been a part of 2, major junior championship programs and been to back-to-back Memorial Cups in those 2 seasons. So lots has probably changed. You've gained a lot of experience in that time and probably have some stories to tell. And we kind of want to learn about that time of your life.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. It's 2 years has kind of flown by. It's been it's kind of crazy just how life takes you on a different journey sometimes and stuff. But I've been really fortunate to work with a lot of really good people, a lot of really good programs, organizations, and a lot of really good players. But at the end of the day, it's the players that are going on the ice and making the difference. So just fortunate to be a part of it.
Well, and Dustin, you got to be part of, like we said, 3 different programs, cultures, environments. And the big question we want to start off with is, what's the best part of leadership to you?
I just think it's every day. I think that's the biggest thing. If I come back to just how I lead or what I think is for me most effective, I think it's just consistent. I think it's being present every day. I think that's what everyone wants to win, but I do honestly think that consistency wins. It's the daily habits. It's daily being intentional, finding ways to get better. Spending time with the players. That's a big piece, is developing those relationships with the players. You see them at their high, you see them at their low, and you help them through that process of just growing as young men and growing as hockey players. In my case, as a hockey coach, but. I think it's the everyday. I really enjoy just coming to the rink every day, spending time with the guys, helping them grow and finding ways to get better.
You mentioned consistency, and I think I know you well, so I get that side of it. But for people listening, what does consistency mean to you as an athlete and maybe as a leader?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. The consistency is really hard. I think it goes back to your habits, goes back to your preparation, and again, it can. To me, it's every day. I know I said that in your last question there, but it really is just, consistency is bringing an intentional effort, intentional attitude, effort, and execution every day. And again, it's not gonna go great every day. It's not. It's good when it doesn't go great every day, because it's through that resilience, through that mental toughness, sometimes physical toughness, to just continue to push through and find ways to get better. But consistency. Not everyone's consistent. That just doesn't happen overnight. That's definitely a process to continual to get to that point. But I do think that is the effort that I want my players to work towards, is being that reliable and dependable and consistent player, and similar to our teams. And you don't get there without just being intentional every day and finding new ways to get better.
So how do you help a young athlete understand that consistency? Like, what does that look like on a day-to-day with them?
Yeah, I mean, they're all different. I think that's one of the fun parts about coaching, is getting to know your players, getting to know their backgrounds, getting to know their families, getting to know their experiences, their hardships, their adversity. They all. I think that's special. It makes a team strong as well. You have different players coming from different backgrounds, so I think getting to know them first and where they've come from, and then trying to help them see. We're getting to know where they want to go, where, and then meeting in the middle as far as the coaching side of it, as how to help them to get there, and I think players have a certain idea of where they're at in their game, whether it's on the ice or in their leadership or in their mental performance or in the gym, whatever it might be. But I do think it's it's our job as coaches to help them connect the dots, to challenge them. And sometimes it's not always challenging. Sometimes it's to build them up. Players are different. Some players are extremely hard on themselves. Some players are maybe sometimes a little bit too confident in themselves. So again, it's the process of understanding your players and help them each where they're at. And to me, like, I enjoy that process. I think it's a lot of fun. So.
Well, and you mentioned, I won't go back to that. You just mentioned consistency, and it was the first thing you mentioned, and maybe it's a value of yours, but you mentioned it's hard. You're working with 16 to 20-year-olds. What, in your estimation, like, what's hard about that?
It is. It is. I know from personal experience, it's hard. Whether it's in life, it's hard to be consistent. It's hard to develop long-term habits. It's hard to develop high performance habits. It's not supposed to be easy. If it was, then every team would win a championship every year. Then every player would get the MVP. So there's a lot that goes into it, but it's the discipline. I think everyone wants the motivation. Everyone wants to find a way to be motivated, but at the end of the day, it really is the discipline that, to me, is more important than the motivation. Everyone's going to wake up some days and just feel excited to get going, but more days than not, you're probably not going to be at that high point for motivation. That's where your discipline kicks in, and then that's where consistency is of high value. And you go back to your habits. If your habits are strong, if you have that mindset of finding ways to get better every day, then that consistency becomes a habit. But it is tough for sure.
I heard David Goggins speak on something actually just yesterday. I was listening, and he he said he kind of sound just like what you said, Dustin. He just said it's hard. Everybody knows how to be great. People choose not to be because it takes discipline and it's hard, and they fall off, right? And he's like, it's nothing more than that. It's just you know how to be this way if you want to be this way, but it's hard. He just kept saying it's hard. I thought that was interesting. And so what you're saying makes lots of sense. And I think my question kind of is, what's the, I'm struggling to put it into words, I guess, but it's when we're dealing with young athletes today and we're wrestling with the hard stuff with them, and that, it is hard. Do we find that there's just a certain percentage that are going to choose to drop off? Or do you feel like each one of them has a chance of greatness inside if they choose?
Yeah, I do. I do for sure. I think my best coaches really instilled belief in me. I think that's what every player wants is wants coaches, leaders, when they're working bosses that really see their potential, their potential, not just where they're at now, but has that belief, that trust in what they're doing. And I mean, it's a bit of a loaded question because trust, it's just not given. That's an earned thing, and you earned it by being consistent. And so, but going back to what you said, when you're asking about being hard, like to me, players to be successful, they need to be confident. I've been working through this with with my team this year, leading up to camp. They're doing an article and they're reading an article and giving me some feedback in our group chat. But to me, confidence is two things. It's preparation and it's doing hard things. And hard things is not always physical things, sometimes mental things. But to me, the preparation, like that's, if you get nervous, you get anxious going into competition, going into tryouts, if you're not prepared. And preparation is doing the hard things. So if you're connecting those two, to me, your confidence is high. So I think that's where it comes back to a lot. But again, to go back to your question, Justin, I do think that, players they all have that, they all can achieve that. But again, it's if they can commit to those standards, those high performance standards. And that's, like I said, it's not always easy.
You talked about instilling belief, and you just gave a very practical example of how you're trying to do this with your new team by having them read an article, discussing on your group chat. Are there other ways you're intentional about helping develop or become aware of being consistent and developing good habits and being intentional about doing hard things in your program? Because, like, quite selfishly, I'm curious because every year I wrestle with this, and my training camp starts in 5 days. And thinking through, and I've got some ideas, and a lot of them work, and some just flop. But at the same time, for me, that's doing a hard thing, right? But like, are there any intentional examples? Because there's a lot of people listening to this that, yeah, they're starting training camp here in the next week or two.
Yeah, I think, to me, I love building team. I love growing players. But I think also tied to that is I love building a program. I love taking a program and trying to raise the bar, trying to find a next level. And so I think if you can instill that in your players, like there's an investment in more than just themselves. If you can get that buy-in, if you can get that ownership, that player ownership, not just in their development. And that's a whole nother topic. I think that's huge for player development, is just the player ownership. But player ownership in their team, in the organization, if they can get past that themselves and investing in something bigger, in the vision of where we want the program to go, where we want the team to go. To me, I think players can get behind that. It's not hard. Like it's a daily process, but I think just having that purposeful vision that players can get behind and get excited about. They want that. As much as players don't want to be pushed and they don't want it to be hard, I think deep down they really do. They want to be able to reach their potential. They want to, and their team as well. So to me, I think that vision and just challenging every day to raise the standards, not just for themselves, but for their team and for the whole program.
So you talked about a purposeful vision. Players want this. They want to know where they're going, and they want the standards set high, because like to dream big. Let's go for it, fellas. Right? A friend of ours, JP Nurbin, pushed me on this for 5 years, and I quite honestly just resisted. And so I'm curious, from your standpoint, when did, and maybe it was as a player or the last few years being a coach, where did your personal coaching values like the things that drive you every day, and that vision, that purpose for like, hey, Dustin Friesen, the hockey coach, this is where I want to go and this is how I'm going to do this. Was there a set of values, a purpose statement? How there's different ways to define it, right? Was there something for you that guides you that you come back to regularly, just to be like, hey, this is who I am, this is where we're going?
Yeah, I don't think there was, a defining moment. I think that's probably more of a process than anything else, as far as, me developing and growing at first as a player, just as a man, as a husband, as a father, and now as a coach, just learning from experiences. I've had a lot of different coaches as a player, been through a lot of different programs, and just seeing, in my opinion, what I have, what I hold in value. Different coaches, different programs I've gone, they do different things, and like I don't know how always agree with them, but I do think that that's even those maybe less not always positive experiences, that's definitely helped shape me as a coach and the environment that I want to have for my players. And there's been some really impactful uh, coaches and programs that are like, yeah, no, that's what I want to do. I want to do something similar to me for that. And so like probably the biggest, the biggest program or experience for me was going to the University of New Brunswick. I just, there the program was a good program, but within, a couple of years went from kind of the middle of the pack to, a national standard for where college hockey should go. And like, again, it's all about working with good people. And I was just fortunate to be a part of seeing that process and how it grew and how intentional we had to be, and just how the standards just continue to get better and raise every year and every day. But I think that to me, if there's a foundational moment for the foundational years, for me, that was that.
You took that, obviously, that was your college career, and you went on to play East Coast Hockey League, some American Hockey League, and then 8 years in Germany as well. And so as you were traveling, did you find that, and that was Gardner McDougall we're talking about at UNB that was building that program, but did you find yourself constantly looking at him still as the standard, or did you find other coaches along the way that you added to some of your repertoire with?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think like Gardner has many qualities. He'll be a mentor of mine for as long as I'm coaching. But definitely there's other coaches that I definitely look up to. I still stay in touch with. I think every coach has their strength, and even for myself, I think there's certain strengths that I have, and there's certain areas that I want to grow, and then there's certain areas where I surround myself with staff that can fill the areas where I feel like I need that support. I think that's really important, is just is empowering your staff. Really fortunate these last couple of years to, especially last year, just working with Gardner again. I had him as a coach, but then now working with him, coaching a team, him just really believing me as a coach, and just empowering me and trusting me to do my job. So
sorry, I'll piggyback on that. So Dustin, I got to see you work at PHA, and then you started working with the Warriors, and then went out and with Moncton. Crazy experience to be part of to be at the Memorial Cup 2 years in a row, 2 major junior championships, being part of those staffs. And no two programs are the same. And so there's probably similarities, distinctions, all those sorts of things. I'm just curious, like what's some of the stuff you picked up over the last few years, being part of 3 different programs in 3 years that were ultra successful?
Yeah, I think, like you said, just really fortunate to be a part of each of those programs, and a lot of really good people. I think all would have had their strengths. Going back with Moose Jaw a couple of years ago, I wasn't able to be with them full time, but just seeing how they grew that team. Was an older team, a lot of really high end talent, and how they managed those players, how they grew that group. It definitely wasn't a straight road for that team, and how they navigated that season. I think like throughout the year, there's some tough times. I think that's, to me as a coach, not that you want them, but I think you do. I think that's where your team can really grow. That's where your players grow. And so, even this past year, I remember we came in from a game and we weren't playing well. And I was like, oh man, like what's wrong with our group? And GMAC came in. He's like, oh, this is awesome. This is great. This is fantastic. What an opportunity for our guys to grow. And so I think and not just from last year, but even like back to my Prairie days, I think like one of my favorite terms for my team is adversity is an opportunity. I feel like I want my teams to have just have toughness in them, physical and mental toughness, just to be able to push through regardless of the circumstances. Things are going well, it's next shift. Things are going poor, let's focus on that next shift again. So to me is just having that resiliency within your teams. Being in Moncton, we came into the team organization didn't have a great year prior to that. And so, we needed to instill a bit of a identity, enjoy coming to the rink again, enjoy building another level of standard that maybe wasn't there the year before, a level of hardness in their game. And so that was definitely a process. That wasn't easy because, obviously GMAC has a really good reputation, has had a lot of success, but he hadn't at junior in a long time. And so it was definitely a process for the players to trust in what we were doing. But credit to the players for believing in what we were instilling and how we continue to evolve as a group. I think our leadership grew a ton throughout the year. I think players changed. I think if you would just individual players changed for the better and grew as men and leaders and hockey players throughout the year. And that's not easy to do. It's extremely hard. And we only had a year there where there has, not a great environment to, guys are excited, having fun, coming to the rink, kind of a high performance standard. And so it was, just seeing that process happen again within that team. And it was great that those players got rewarded at the end of the day for that investment and that change throughout the year.
Hey everyone, it's Shane here. If you've been listening to the show for a while, I'm passionate about coaching. Not just running practices or drawing up plays, but building culture, leading well, and helping athletes grow as people. For me, one of the biggest game changers in my coaching journey has been working with my mentor, JP Nurbin, and his program at TOC Culture. Now, TOC is all about transformational coaching, giving you a clear framework, the tools you need, and the accountability to apply them with your team. And now they've launched something brand new, the Coach's Gym. It's an all-inclusive hub for transformational coaches. Inside, you'll find courses on working with sports parents, managing playing time without the drama, building the foundations of great coaching, and earning your transformational coaching and culture certification. Plus, there's an entire library of ready-to-use tools and systems to equip you to build a championship culture, and a private community of coaches who are walking the same path you are. Now, I started working with JP back in 2018, and it was a game changer for me as a coach of my program. I've gone through the certification process, I've used the tools, and it's been massive in our success the last few years of building a championship culture, both on and off the court. If you're serious about becoming the kind of coach your players remember for life, you've got to check it out. And because you're a Grit and Growth listener, you can save $50 when you sign up. Just go to tocculture.com and enter Grit Growth as the coupon code. That's all caps, one word, GRITGROWTH.
Like you said, just about your desire to build programs, to build young men, to raise bars, and not only to raise the bar in the program, but you've oftentimes talked about even raising the floor. Now, you had that opportunity at Prairie Hockey Academy at one point in your first head coaching role. And Eric Robitaille would ask probably, how's he going to do without me as his assistant, though? But we know In that part, you actually took on an expansion U18 prep program in what some people would call, the best U18 AAA or prep hockey in Western Canada inside of the CSSHL. And you had to take on some fierce competition. And every day, I think you were tasked with instilling confidence and belief in your group in an expansion team, and raising that bar for that program to the point where last season, when you had recruited a team, the majority of a team, and then left and handed it over to Evan McFeeters, Evan was able to continue to build on that floor that you raised it to and the bar that you set. You had winning seasons back to back, pretty 18, 19 win seasons in that league. And then that team, excelled and was, I think, the top, wins, loss, and points percentage, from that foundation you built. So you're building programs. And I'm saying this because there's some people probably in our listeners that don't know who Dustin is. All they know is that Dustin Friesen was named the new head coach of the Calgary Hitmen. But you've built some successful programs, and you went to do it in Moncton. Now I'm kind of more telling a story, and I want to get back to you talking, but we get to Calgary here, where the Hitmen had a fantastic year last year. They had there's a bar that's been set by the coaching staff and the program there, and you get to come in, and it's a bit of a different approach, but at the same time, it's junior hockey and there's development stages. And so I'm excited to see and hear your approach in Calgary now, as opposed to what you walked into in Moncton, and how is that changing today?
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit different, and it's a little bit similar as well. First of all, I think, working at the Hitmen is an awesome opportunity. I think it's one of the, might be, the only organization in the whole CHL that has NHL franchise, American League franchise, and major junior franchise. So it's already a professional environment here in Calgary. They had a really good season on the ice last year. It was a really tough division with Medicine Hat and Lethbridge, and a really tough series with Lethbridge. And it's too bad, Calgary had a couple injuries along the way. But I mean, that's hockey. But I think my approach is no different. Coming into Calgary, I want to build a program, not just a team. I want players to be able to come in, invest in the program, and leave it a better place than when they first came, both for themselves, their own development, and for the organization. I do. There's a lot of, I'm excited about the group that we have coming back. We have some returning players. We have some players who are coming from different leagues who've had a lot of success. And then we have a lot of young players that are coming in, have had success in their younger teams, but looking to make that step to major junior. And so we'll have to me, an extremely motivated group coming in for training camp next week, and then throughout the season. And a little bit new dynamic and landscape in junior hockey with the NCAA shift, and their decision to let major junior players now play college hockey. So it'll be interesting here the next couple of years, and once it kind of settles to what the new norm is here. But I do think going to Calgary, to me, it's about developing a program. I get, like I said, excited about that, excited about setting the standard. And you're right, they had a really good year last year, but to me that doesn't change my process. Obviously we want to have success on the ice, but there's so much more than just having success on the ice. That's the end result. There's a lot of, to me, foundational groundwork that we got to put in first. And to me, it's not just, you just don't want to have success one year. You put the effort, you build a foundation, you raise the standards and expectations. And then eventually the wins come. But it's a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of intentional effort, planning, preparation to get to that point. So it's going to be a process, but excited. I love that. I love the process, kind of like I said before. So.
Yeah, and you just mentioned the NCAA rule changes, so that changes a little bit of that process. Maybe at times can expedite it. I saw that just yesterday, the Hitmen announced the signing of I think it's Aiden Hesse. Am I saying that correct? And obviously a big prospect goalie, which that NCAA rule change is going to allow you to bring some of those big USHL players up. Aiden just won the gold medal at the Ivan Halinka for Team USA. There's some exciting prospects in the system for you now.
Yeah, I know we're really excited about the younger players that we have coming in. And I don't want to jump ahead there, but we have a lot of good returning players as well. Like I said, they had a good team last year. So those players are coming in with good habits, good details. And then you bring in a new crop of recruits and players looking to make their mark in junior hockey. So extremely excited to work with the group and work with the age group of players that we have coming in. And now, more than ever, it's not just, we're able to bring some U.S. players as well. So it's the recruitment prospects. We have our draft picks from the years that we need to continue to develop. But now it's not just recruiting, it's also retaining. And so player development is just at the highest priority. Can we build a program that can develop players, that can justify players coming to Calgary, staying at Calgary, developing them for the next level? So, I think players are going to go to college, eventually, and that's just the new landscape a little bit. But do they see the opportunity? Do they see the development to be able to stay in Calgary for 2, 3, some might be 4 years, and then they can make that step to the next level, whether that's college or whether that's professional hockey, or what that looks like. So, but more than now and ever, it's that player development piece and how to grow players, how to keep them within your program. And I think the success of a program is players moving on as well. So it's not that you don't want players to move on. You want that. That shows that you're growing players, you're growing teams. But excited, to go back to your question, excited about the young players that we have coming in, both from the U.S. and our draft picks. Some really excited prospects coming up here.
That just goes back to your whole adversities and opportunity, right? And so you got the new NCAA ruling that creates it just changes the landscape of major junior hockey, right? But rather than seeing it as a negative, again, raise the floor, it's an opportunity. How can we build something where guys want to stay and develop and grow and use that to your advantage? Dustin, you hit on, you said you love the process. You love the process of building something, taking something where it is, getting from A to B. You love that process. How are you intentional about making sure you stay in love with the process? Because you're in a
consistency,
business.
Shane. We know this answer.
Well,
no, go ahead and ask. I'm just joking.
I'm not asking you the question. So you be quiet. But how do you stay in love with the process? Because you're being measured by wins and losses at the end of the day in many ways. And for you, what are the things in your life? And I think everybody's a little bit different. That brings you back just as a reminder. It's hey, this is why I'm doing this, and this is my purpose. This is what gets me up in the morning to keep going.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the players, the player growth. Nothing's better than is investing in players, seeing them grow as young men, as hockey players, and be able to circle back and just see where they are now. Or maybe that's that phone call from 2, 3, 4, 5 years later where, you don't maybe know the impact. There's, when you're coaching, you're trying to connect with everyone as best as you can. You're trying to grow everyone as best you can. Some players you might connect with a little bit more, or some you might feel like you've connected with more. But it's really cool when you receive a text or receive a phone call from a player that maybe you didn't think you had that much of an impact in, and all of a sudden they're like, well, just this time and this year or this season or this phase that I went through was foundational in my development as a player, or just me as a young guy and making a decision and navigating life. And so to me, it goes back to the players, seeing them grow, seeing them develop. I love checking in with past players as well, just keeping that open door. So, they're going to go through tough times and good times as well. So just being able to have that connection with players, as they move on, it's been cool to follow up with the Moncton players this past year and see them, whether they're going to college or whether they're going to junior, whether they're returning back there, just to check up on them. And similar to the players in Prairie, a lot of them are trying to make that step to whether it's junior A or major junior, some moving on to pro as well. So I think keeping, staying in that mindset of the process based, I think it's, definitely that player connection that makes the difference.
Well, and you mentioned a few moments ago the word ego. And I think whatever level you play at or whatever level you're coaching at, you're going to have to deal with egos. Guys are super competitive. They want to win. all sorts of things. You're at a level where you're coaching guys that are NHL draft picks, future millionaires, like they have dreams, visions, and you're helping them get there. In the context of a season, how do you go about managing and leading through those egos?
Confidence is good. I like confidence. It needs to fit in. It needs to fit in the team environment. So I think there's a delicate balance, between confidence um, and humility. And so I think to me it goes back to I always with our teams. Like to me the strength of the team is a team. With my whenever I develop teams, it's important that every player has value. It's important that the players in the room, they show value to every player as well. I want everyone included in that room. And so, you go to your best players, a big thing for them is big thing for them is continue to find ways to get better and to elevate. Yeah, they might be a great player in junior hockey, but is that their end goal? Is that where they want? Is that their end destination? They're looking to make steps to whether it's college or whether it's professional hockey. And again, like I go back to that, it's hard. When they go to their player development camps, they're probably not the best player there. Then when they go to main camp, they're 100% not the best player there. And so everyone needs to find ways to get better. And so extremely important to me. Like no one is above the team. Yeah, you have some better players than other, but everyone has to find a way to contribute to that team environment. I think that's the strength. That's the strength within a program, is just being not just a good teammate. To me, you need to be an exceptional teammate to have success, not just as a team, but just even for your own career. You look at the Florida Panthers. I think like one of my favorite parts of the whole playoffs wasn't even the games. It was when they're handing out the trophy, and Barkov hands it to, I don't even know who was the first guy, but I know he didn't play very, very many shifts. It was guys that, it was the Black Aces. It was guys that hadn't it was more fourth line players. It was guys that had not raised the cup before, and so you got guys like Reinhart and Bennett, Kachuk, Ekblad, like Forsling, like all some of their most premier players, that had a huge hand in getting that Stanley Cup, but they showed value to their other teammates that hadn't won the cup before. Maybe they didn't have as big as roles, but didn't lessen their value of the team. So to me, I just love that. I think that was the best example of team sports and how important every single player is. And so, Shane, to go back to your question about egos, that's the highest spot in our profession in hockey. And if they can show value to every single player and they can put their egos away to show how important the team is, certainly major junior hockey players can do that too.
Man, just gave me goosebumps. Anyways, how are there ways that, like, how do you look to celebrate and show value to those players that are like, they're role players? They're not on the stat sheet every night, but they're invaluable. Like, is there anything you do intentionally to celebrate them?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. I think, like I love group player meetings, like small group player meetings. It doesn't always have to be your leaders. I love bringing the young players in there too. I love just sitting down one-on-one, showing them video, showing them their growth, working through their development plans on intentional effort and where they can get better. I love showing video of identity clips, to showing value to, sometimes players just see the points, they see the big hits, but there's so many important details that come into a winning team, and for guys to make steps to the next level and just really showing value, I guess, to the things that you're talking about, Shane, to maybe some of the less glamorous plays. And a lot of times it's those players. You need to show your best players doing those things as well.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, just it's important across the whole lineup that they see that. But you have to reinforce those things every single day of what is really valued to have a successful team, successful players, and players to be able to take the next step. Like, a lot of players, it's not their numbers, it's not their points. They're going to help them get to the next level. It really is. It's their ability to be able to contribute to a team. Some of the best players in major junior, they don't go on to score at the NHL level or at the pro level. Maybe they're an excellent penalty killer. Maybe they are, a fourth line. Maybe they're a role guy. But everyone needs to find a way to contribute. Everyone needs to find a way to help the team win, and that looks like a variety of different things. But it's growing their game, and so I like I said, I love emphasizing that in their player development plans. I love emphasizing that in team video, how important details and habits for us to be successful, and just in practice too. I think like just stop and practice. When you see something really good, stop it there, emphasize it. I think it helps a lot. So,
thank you. You just added a couple extra slides to my training camp meetings next week, so that's awesome.
Dustin, we oftentimes talk about a former athlete and coach named Joe Ehrman on our show here, and we'll talk about his book called Inside Out Coaching. And I think Joe asked some really important questions that I just really enjoy asking other coaches when they're here. And one of those questions he asks is just, can the coach answer, why do I coach? And so if you let me, I'd like to just ask you a few of his questions and have you rapid fire answer for us. So question is, why do you coach?
Grow young men, grow young hockey players.
Cool. And why do you coach the way you coach?
This is going to sound kind of funny, but I was talking with my wife, Catherine, about this too. But honestly, I think it's a lot to do with my faith, my family, and then, believe it or not, in a weird way, I think like growing up on the farm. I think those three things have been foundational and just who I am as a person, as a coach. So,
yeah. I knew we couldn't make it the whole podcast without a blue collar comment, so this is perfect. It's it's not funny at all. I think it's exactly who you are. Your faith's important to you and your family, and some of these consistency pieces, no doubt, you was part of your upbringing on the farm. So, what does it feel like to be coached by you?
I would like it to be that a coach that believes in you, a coach that's going to have high standards, high expectations. We're going to want to have a lot of fun doing it. So it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard, but I think because of those standards, you'll see growth. You see players starting to rise to what their potential could be.
Awesome. And how do you define success?
That one's a tough one, Justin. I would say define success is in growth. And that's not always define success as player and individual growth. Maybe not always on the ice, maybe it's off the ice, but a lot of different areas in players' lives and just seeing how they grow.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. We're starting to get a theme, Justin, on our podcast now. It's like we had Lisa Tomitis refer to, she loves recruiting farm kids, the U of S women's basketball program, and they're like the top program in the country every year. And now you're talking about the lessons and values from your farm experience. So that's two for sure. We're going to get a few more.
What did she say? Like, if you didn't grow up doing chores, you're going to find it really hard here.
Yeah, something like that, like not throwing bales or whatever. I can't remember what it was, but she's from like big city Ontario, and she comes out to Saskatchewan, middle of nowhere, and she's just like, man, these farm kids are just different, right? That sort of thing. So yeah, Dustin, you provided us with some massive takeaways, and I appreciate you. And it's just been fun getting to know you a little bit over the last few years and being part of our community here in Carenport for those years. And we miss you, but yeah, it's been fun watching your journey the last few years, and excited to continue following and supporting you from afar. So all the best this season. And yeah, this was a lot of fun, and thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no, thanks, Shane. Appreciate it. It's been, it's been great to see. It's pretty cool how the podcast has grown and all the learning that happens place. And so I appreciate, you just guys having me and be able to somewhat, hopefully, contribute a little bit to it.
Thanks so much. I was gonna say, try to ask a question that the Calgary Hitmen fans can listen to and what to expect, but we'll leave that. We appreciate you, Dustin. Thanks for being on here. Good luck as you kick off your season with the Calgary Hitmen. I'm excited to get to watch when you come to Moose Jaw, and it's going to be a fantastic year. So good luck.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Grit and Growth podcast. We hope that you enjoyed today's guest and the answers that they were able to give and the stories they were able to tell. If you did enjoy today's episode, we'd ask that you would just follow or subscribe to our podcast. It does help us get the word out and our message. Thanks again. Have a great day.